Think of it like a fast-track guide to how marketing really functions.
Yeah, we'll explore things like the classic marketing tool belt, how companies figure out what you actually need, why you buy things, and even the tricky stuff like global markets and ethical choices. We'll pull in examples from the sources to make it concrete.
Okay, get ready to maybe see marketing a bit differently. Let's unpack this. Right, let's kick things off with something really fundamental. The marketing mix, often called the essential tool belt. What exactly is this tool belt, and why is it sort of the first step for any successful business?
Well, the marketing mix, it's basically the core set of levers a company pulls, right, to shape what they're offering and how they get it to the right people. The classic framework, the one our sources focus on, is the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion.
The 4 Ps. Okay.
Yeah. And the idea is, look, having a great product, it's not enough on its own. You've got to figure out the pricing, where people can actually get it, and critically, how you're going to tell them about it.
Yeah.
Getting those 4 working together is key.
Okay, let's break them down. First P, product. Seems obvious it's the thing you sell, but from a marketing angle, what does product really mean?
It's much broader than just the physical item, you know? It definitely covers tangible goods, sure, but also services. Think about babysitting, plumbers, doctors, even automated services. But even with a physical product, it's really about the whole product experience. Our sources mention companies like Peloton, Netflix, Domino's, Starbucks, Chipotle. They're not just selling a bike or pizza.
They're selling an experience.
Exactly, an experience that's been carefully designed and developed.
Okay, I get that. It's the whole package, the feeling, maybe the convenience.
Yeah.
But how do marketers figure out what kind of experience or features we actually want? The source mentions analyzing needs, like a specific backpack features a water bottle pocket, a padded sleeve. How do they know that's what people need?
Yeah, that's really central to product development and marketing. It's all about digging into customer needs to see what new models or features people would genuinely value and, pay for. The sources talk about the stages of new product development, but the key thing is understanding the factors behind success or failure. It's not just a cool idea.
Right.
It's things like, does it offer unique benefits? Was the planning solid? Is there synergy between the tech and the marketing? And then there's the whole adoption process. Who are you targeting? The innovators. The later majority.
Like with Swarovski or Taco Bell or Gillette.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly tweaking things based on what they think we want.
Exactly. They're analyzing and trying new approaches based on those insights. KFC is another example.
Okay, here's where it gets really fascinating for me. Products don't just stay the same forever, do they? They have a life cycle, right?
Yeah.
What are the stages? And how does a company's strategy shift depending on where their product is in that cycle?
Oh, absolutely. And understanding this cycle is vital because, what works brilliantly in one stage could be a complete disaster in another.
Okay.
It typically starts with introduction. You're building awareness, investing a lot, probably not making much profit yet. Then comes growth. Sales take off, profits climb, but competitors jump in. So marketing might shift from just, hey, we exist, to here's why we're better.
Right.
After that, you hit maturity. Sales growth slows, profits kind of level off. This is often where companies try to stretch things out, maybe find new users for the product market modification or add new features, product modification.
Got to keep it going.
Exactly. And finally, there's decline. Sales fall, profits drop. Strategies here might be, harvesting cutting costs to squeeze out the last bit of profit or just getting rid of it. Think about hoverboards, huge growth, then boom, it tapered off fast.
Or like a long-standing brand.
Yeah.
Sears, maybe. Their strategy had to keep changing as things moved through maturity and, into decline.
Precisely, constantly adapting to that life cycle stage.
Okay, so that's the product's journey. What about something less tangible, like a brand? How does marketing build a strong brand that connects with people emotionally? Harley-Davidson comes up in the source.
Yeah, branding. That's the whole process of creating that identity, that feeling, that connection. It builds what's called brand equity, basically, the extra value a brand has beyond just the functional product.
So it's worth more than just the sum of its parts.
Definitely. Successful brands really resonate. They solve problems, sure, but they also connect emotionally, building that loyalty. Harley-Davidson, like the source points out, is a perfect example. It's become this huge intangible asset because it represents a whole lifestyle and identity. It's way more than just a motorcycle. And, even tangible things like packaging play a role here. It's part of the experience, part of the branding. Trends like sustainable packaging, using only what's needed, like boxed water, that connects back to the brand's values. Chipotle's packaging does that too, reinforces their image.
Right. Let's move to the next P, price. Why is pricing seen as, arguably one of the toughest calls marketers have to make? Seems like it should be simple cost plus a bit of profit, right?
If only. Price is incredibly tricky because it's the only P that actually brings in revenue directly, but it also directly shapes how customers see the value and impacts the company's profit margin.
Get it wrong, and it hurts fast.
Yeah, instantly. You could lose customers, lose money, or both. So to figure it out, marketers often look at what the sources call the 5 critical C's of pricing.
The 5 C's. Okay, what are they?
Cost, customers, channels of distribution, competition, and compatibility. You can't just look at your costs in isolation. You have to balance all 5.
Okay, let's unpack a couple of those. Customers first. How does our perception of value affect the price?
It's fundamental. Customer value is all about what they perceive they're getting the benefits versus what they're giving up, mainly the price. Marketers use this in pricing strategies.
Like how?
Well, take new products. Price skimming is one strategy. Start high. Capture those early adopters who see huge value, think the initial PlayStation 3 launch, then gradually lower the price.
Right.
Penetration pricing is the opposite. Start low to grab market share quickly, appeal to price-sensitive folks. And then there's the whole psychology of it. Odd even pricing, $9.99 feels way cheaper than $10,
Right.
Or prestige pricing for luxury goods, where a higher price actually signals quality, or creating urgency with sales that end soon.
Okay, what about competition? How does knowing what the other guy is charging affect your strategy? The source compares Gazelle bikes and Giant.
Oh, it's huge, because buyers are always comparing. They look at features, sure, but price is a massive comparison point.
Yeah.
The Gazelle versus Giant example is interesting. It shows how even if you have a high-quality product like Gazelle, if a competitor comes in much cheaper, buyers might not even see you as being in the same category anymore. Your price has to make sense relative to your costs and what competitors are doing and how that positions you in the customer's mind.
Got it. Okay, last P for now. Place. How does the product actually get from the company to you? It's not always a straight line, is it?
Not usually, no. That involves marketing channels and often intermediaries. Companies use agents, brokers, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, all sorts of middlemen.
Why not just sell direct?
Well, the source makes a great point with PepsiCo. Imagine them trying to sell directly to every single person who wants a can of Pepsi. It'd be wildly inefficient.
Right, okay.
Intermediaries provide that efficiency, and the type of distribution strategy you choose, intensive, meaning everywhere, selective, in just some shows and outlets, or exclusive in very few places, depends on your goals for market coverage, what buyers expect, and of course, profitability.
So can you give examples of how that works? Like, what's the difference between a wholesaler and a retailer in that chain?
Sure. Retailers are the ones you usually deal with directly, right? They buy products and sell them to us, the end consumers.
Like a supermarket or a department store?
Exactly. Wholesalers are often the step before that. They buy in really big quantities from the manufacturer and then sell smaller batches to the retailers. The source shows that flow.
Okay.
But it's also an area where ethical issues can arise, things like fairness and billing between the players in the channel, or maybe concerns about monopolies if one company controls too much access.
And the whole supply chain behind it, too.
Right, the bigger picture, purchasing, operations, logistics, that brings its own ethical questions, like balancing speedy delivery with the carbon footprint, or making sure you're sourcing materials sustainably.
Things are changing in retail, too, aren't they? The source talks about how retailers are adapting. What are some trends in how and where we shop now?
Definitely changing. The material contrasts traditional stores with non-store retailers like online shops. But even physical stores are evolving. You've got standalone shops, downtown districts, massive malls like the Mall of America, which are increasingly about retailtainment, blending shopping, and entertainment.
Right, like an experience.
Exactly. And a huge trend, especially pushed by the pandemic, is that blurring of online and offline. Things like curbside pickup became normal almost overnight. Walgreens is a good example of adapting quickly. It just shows place isn't fixed. It's constantly shifting to meet us where we are.
Okay, last P, promotion. You got the product, the price, the place. Now, how do companies tell their story and convince you to actually buy their thing?
This is where integrated marketing communications IMC comes in. It's crucial because we're just bombarded with messages everywhere, right? So you need a coordinated approach using different tools from the promotional mix to deliver a consistent message.
Okay, IMC. Makes sense.
Peloton's mentioned in the source as having a really strong IMC strategy, YouTube ads, TV, social media, word of mouth, the whole package.
And what's in that promotional mix?
Well, the main elements are advertising, sales promotion, public relations, personal selling, direct marketing, and increasingly important, digital and social media marketing.
Right. Let's touch on advertising first. We see it constantly. What's the main goal, and how on earth do companies decide where to spend those presumably massive budgets?
Advertising is basically paid communication aimed at a large audience. Think TV, radio, internet ads, billboards. The goal is usually to inform people, persuade them, or just remind them about the product or brand.
And the budget?
That's a tough one. The sources mention different ways companies approach it. Some just spend what's left over the all-you-can-afford method. Others treat it like an investment, looking for a return ROI. Some try to match what competitors spend, competitive parity, and others base it on specific goals they want the ads to achieve the objective and task approach.
Like those huge Super Bowl ads, they must have a very specific objective for that cost.
You'd hope so, yeah. Or think of PepsiCo's ongoing advertising spend. It's all tied back to a promotional strategy.
What about sales promotion? All the discounts, coupons, BO goes.
Yeah, sales promotion is all about short-term incentives to get you to buy now. The goal is often a quick sales boost or clearing out inventory.
Like clearing the shelves.
Exactly. Common examples are coupons, print or digital deals, discounts, contests, sweepstakes, giving out samples, loyalty programs, all that stuff. These can be aimed at us, the consumers, a pull strategy, or aimed at the retailers to get them to stock the product, a push strategy.
Okay. Personal selling feels quite different, though. More face-to-face.
It is. It's that direct interaction between a salesperson and a potential customer. For really complex products or big business-to-business sales, they might even use team selling, bringing in different experts.
Hmm.
The process involves steps like prospecting, finding potential leads, through things like digital campaigns, trade shows, referrals, and then qualifying those leads, basically, making sure they're a good fit and actually likely to buy. It's high touch.
And presumably ethical considerations there too.
Definitely. Making sure salespeople are honest, not misrepresenting things. Companies often use software now to monitor for things like fraud or misuse of funds related to sales activities.
And the digital world. That must have massively changed promotion.
Oh, completely. Social media marketing is huge, using platforms to build engagement, connect with customers. Think PepsiCo, Home Depot, Warby Parker.
Yeah.
Mobile marketing is essential because everyone's on their phones. That means responsive websites, mobile-friendly emails, effective apps. The sources highlight the massive growth in mobile ad spending.
And data plays a big role.
Huge. Digital marketing relies on metrics, things like bounce rate on your website, or using tools like Google Trends or SEMrush to see what people are actually searching for. Publix is mentioned as integrating their website, app, Instacart partnership, and social media for a whole digital ecosystem.
Any other ethical red flags specifically in promotion we should know about?
Well, beyond personal selling, you sometimes see issues with promotions having hidden fees or terms and conditions that are deliberately confusing or ambiguous. Transparency is really the key ethical standard there.
Okay, so we've mapped out the 4Ps, the kind of internal toolkit. But marketing isn't just about the company's actions, is it? It's fundamentally tied to the customer and the whole environment the business operates in. What's striking is how much those external things shape everything.
Absolutely, and that's where understanding the macro environment becomes so important. Marketers use frameworks like PESTLE, looking at political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. The idea is, by scanning these external forces, marketers can try to anticipate changes coming down the line, maybe mitigate risks or spot opportunities before anyone else does. It's about looking beyond your own company walls.
The source material talks quite a bit about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. That seems like a massive PESTLE event, right? How did that specifically shake up marketing and consumer behavior, according to the sources?
Oh, it was a huge shock across multiple PESTLE dimensions.
Yeah.
Economic, social, technological. It forced incredibly rapid adaptation. McDonald's is a great example from the sources, shifting focus heavily onto their 3Ds, digital, delivery, and drive-through.
Right.
And surveys cited from firms like Bain & Company and Accenture found really profound shifts in how people behaved as consumers. Lots of people reevaluated priorities, which changed what they valued and how they shopped. It basically accelerated trends that were already bubbling up.
Let's zoom in more on understanding the customer. Why people buy, their motivations, their influence is so critical? The source lists things like cultural, social, personal, psychological, situational factors.
Well, because ultimately, marketing exists to serve customers, right? If you don't understand why they make the choices they do, you're essentially just guessing.
Flying blind.
Pretty much. Those factors are like layers influencing decisions. Culture provides the background values. Social groups like family and friends exert influence. Personal factors like age and lifestyle matter. Psychological drivers, motivations, perceptions are key. Even the specific situation someone's in when they buy can make a difference. Understanding things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs helps marketers see how products might connect to fundamental human drives. And knowing the steps people go through when buying, from realizing they need something, searching for info, evaluating options, deciding, and then feeling good or bad about it afterwards, tells marketers how to engage effectively at each point.
Okay, so that raises a big question. If marketers understand all this about why people buy, how do they use that to figure out who specifically to target? Because not everyone wants the same backpack feature, right?
Exactly. And that leads directly to market segmentation. It's the process of dividing that big, messy market into smaller, more manageable group segments where people share similar characteristics or needs and are likely to respond in a similar way to marketing efforts.
How do they divide it up?
The sources cover the main ways: geographic, where people live; demographic, age, income, gender, that sort of thing; psychographic, lifestyle, values, personality; and behavioral, based on how people actually behave, like what benefits they seek, how often they use a product, or the occasion they buy it for.
Okay.
And to make these segments feel, well, real, marketers often create buyer personas. The source mentions LinkedIn suggesting maybe 3 to 8 personas. These aren't just stats. They're like character sketches giving the target customer a name, a backstory, motivations. It helps guide strategy in a much more human way.
So once you know who you're aiming for, how do you make sure your product occupies a specific, desirable spot in their mind, especially compared to competitors?
That is product positioning. It's about defining and communicating how you want your target market to perceive your brand or product relative to the competition.
Like finding your niche in their brain.
Kind of, yeah. Positioning statements are often used internally to capture this. They typically outline the target audience, the product, and the key benefit or point of difference that makes it stand out. The source uses some company vision statements, Amazon, VW, Fujitsu, as examples of articulating a desired perception, though a specific product positioning statement is usually even more focused than a broad company vision. Value propositions, like the Bill Rogan roofing example, are about getting that core message across clearly to the customer.
To do all this segmentation, positioning, understanding needs, marketers must need solid information, right? What's the role of market research, especially with this explosion of big data we hear about?
Market research is absolutely the bedrock. A market research analyst's whole job is to study markets, collect data, find insights. And big data is, well, it's transforming that. It's just these unbelievable volumes of information generated constantly. The source quotes 2.5 quintillion bytes a day.
Wow.
Companies are investing massively because analyzing that data can reveal patterns and trends you just couldn't see before, often described by the 3 Vs, the sheer volume, the velocity it's generated at, and the variety of data types.
And the research itself?
It takes different forms. Exploratory research is just, learning about something new. Descriptive research measures things. Experimental looks at cause and effect. Ethnographic research involves observing people in their natural settings. It generates qualitative data, the why behind behaviors, or quantitative data, the numbers.
Any ethical watchouts with research?
Confidentiality is a big one. Protecting the privacy of the people or data you're collecting information from is crucial.
Okay, shifting gears again, bigger picture. Global markets. Expanding internationally must open up huge opportunities, but also massive challenges, right?
Absolutely. It's a whole different level of complexity. Global market opportunities pop up when conditions look good for expanding. Maybe your home market is saturated or there's faster growth elsewhere.
The upside is clear.
Yeah, new revenue, reaching more customers. But the challenges are significant. More complex operations, navigating totally different cultural norms, dealing with diverse political and economic systems. The example of Timmy Global Health adapting its medical programs in different countries really highlights how you have to tailor your approach.
And the ethical side of operating globally. The source mentions tough issues like child labor and bribery.
Yeah, those are major concerns. You run into different standards globally. While there are international treaties against child labor, national laws and enforcement vary a lot. Bribery and corruption, while illegal for many companies under laws like the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, are unfortunately common in some parts of the world.
So companies have to navigate that very carefully.
Extremely carefully. They have to decide where their ethical lines are when local practices might conflict with their home country's standards or laws. It also ties into how companies structure themselves globally. Multinationals like Amazon tend to be more centralized, while transnationals like McDonald's allow for more local adaptation to handle these kinds of differences.
Let's talk about diversity and sociodemographic marketing. The marketplace is obviously getting more diverse. How does marketing address this effectively and, importantly, authentically?
Good question. Diversity marketing is about recognizing these distinct subsegments within the broader market and creating communications that genuinely resonate with them, not just paying lip service.
Sociodemographic marketing is similar, targeting based on shared social and demographic factors.
Culture must be key, hugely important. Understanding cultural expressions like values around confidence, hope, teamwork within different groups is vital. The sources point out key growing segments in the U.S., Hispanic consumers being the largest multicultural segment, Asian consumers the fastest growing, Black consumers with specific cultural traits marketing needs to understand and respect.
Might be the example.
The Honest Company resonating with Hispanic consumers, or Ben & Jerry's connecting with social movements that are important to diverse communities. It's about making real connections.
The source also mentions generational differences and wealth distribution. How does looking at, say, millennials versus boomers or who holds the wealth play into targeting?
Well, different generations often have shared experiences and values that shape their buying habits. If you combine that with understanding how wealth is distributed, who actually has the spending power, and how that's changing, it gives marketers really valuable clues for spotting trends and predicting buying patterns for specific groups. It adds another layer to understanding your target audience.
Okay, finally, let's touch on sustainability and purpose-driven marketing. It feels like more and more companies are talking about social responsibility and making a positive impact. Why is this becoming such a big deal in marketing?
It ties back to something called the societal marketing concept, this idea that companies should consider not just customers and profits, but also society's long-term well-being.
So doing good while doing well.
Essentially, yeah. Sustainability in marketing means meeting today's needs without messing things up for future generations. Companies like Patagonia, Adidas, Williams-Sonoma, Costco, Ben & Jerry's get mentioned for focusing on sustainable practices in their products or supply chains.
And purpose-driven marketing.
That takes it a step further. It's about connecting the brand's core identity and actions to a bigger purpose or social mission. The idea is that ethical behavior isn't separate from the brand. It is the brand, like the NASCO Golf Customer Service Code mentioned.
Example.
Think charity, water storytelling, Dove's campaign for real beauty challenging beauty norms, Athleta's Power of She campaign focusing on empowerment and using sustainable materials. It's about building deeper connections based on shared values. And the sources show this matters increasingly to customers' ethics and purpose-influenced buying decisions.
Wow, okay. That was definitely a deep dive into the world of marketing principles. From those core 4Ps, product, price, place, promotion, through understanding the wider world, the customer, global complexities, and this growing focus on purpose. We've really covered how companies try to connect with you.
Yeah, we looked at how marketers try to figure out needs, set prices, get products out there, tell the story, all while juggling this constantly changing external environment and the incredibly diverse needs and values of consumers today. The examples really helped ground those ideas, I think.
Absolutely. It really does make you look differently at everything from a feature on a backpack to a global ad campaign, even to why you pick up your groceries where you do. It's like pulling back the curtain a bit.
It is. Understanding these principles, well, it's pretty key to understanding the engine that drives so much of the commercial world around us, how businesses try to create value, build relationships, and just, succeed in a really complex landscape.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to chew on. Thinking about how fast everything is changing technology, global stuff, consumer values shifting towards purpose and sustainability, how might those classic 4Ps themselves need to evolve? What could possibly replace or be added to product, price, place, and promotion in a world that's aiming to be truly sustainable, purpose-driven, and hyper-connected?
This episode references material from the textbook Principles of Marketing, authored by Dr. Maria Gomez Albrecht, Dr. Mark Green, and Linda Hoffman, published by OpenStax at Rice University. You can access the full textbook for free at openstax.org.